Hi, my name is Emily Rose McRae, and I'm an analyst in Gartner's HR practice. I cover the future of work and workforce transformation. Today, I'm going to share with you some of our research on the 9 trends for the future of work in 2024 and beyond. This move to 4-day work weeks is interesting in part because it's part of a larger trend that we're seeing and that organizations and executive leaders need to adjust to. People value their time differently than before, and they value organizations that value their time and show respect for their time. And a 4-day work week is essentially saying, we realize, because the data definitely shows this, that you can get the same work done in 4 days instead of 5. And while it absolutely has some operational adjustments we're going to need to make as a result, the effect is worth it for us to give you a day back. We value your time enough to give you that day for additional rest and recovery. And that extra energy and ability means that the 4 days they do have in work, they are performing highly enough that their performance is as good, if not better, than if they were working for 5 days. In fact, 92% of the organizations that participated in the UK's 4-day workweek trial said they would do it again. So while it requires these adjustments, the larger shift that it's a part of isn't going away. And so the question is, how do you want to signal to employees that you do value their time and that you do realize that the place that work has in people's lives has shifted and changed in a way that's probably pretty permanent? Much as I wish we were going to magically erase climate change, does this mean employers are suddenly going to get rid of it? No, that's not quite what we're talking about here. But how can you protect your employees from the effects of climate change? So what climate change protection is actually offering benefits to help with physical security. So we're going to offer access to one of our locations for you. For instance, it might be you lost water and power during a hurricane. You can come here to shower. It could also be things around financial support. This might mean both enabling people to continue to work, even if their current work site isn't available or if their home is no longer safe. So things like offering people the mobile hotspots that they can take with them as they evacuate. It could include allowing people to do shifts at a different plant than the one that they're normally assigned to. And also, could you offer stipends or additional insurance that supports your employees who have been affected by some sort of climate change related disaster? And then there's also the mental health side, because we mentioned how stressful it can be to be under the threat of these. When you think, the thing that's particularly challenging about this is that it's not 1 or 2 people in your workforce who might be affected. It might be 1 or 2 people who physically lose property, but it might be many people who are dealing with the anxiety and the fear and the concern. So having robust mental health benefits and explicitly calling out that they are available for people who are affected during these times and the different ways that someone might be able to use them, making sure that someone can access this tool on their mobile phone in case they aren't anywhere with a computer, having someone who calls to check in and acts sort of as a benefits concierge to help them through incredibly stressful times. That's going to be a difference maker for a lot of employees and a lot of candidates. What are the ways that we support our employees in the event of natural disasters, given that the rate at which they are occurring is increasing and we are going to have to deal with this more as a result of climate change? So the paper ceiling is the inability and the limitation for people who don't happen to have paper degrees that might be hanging on their back wall to move up or to get the jobs that they would be very good at if they had those certifications. They might already have the knowledge and expertise. They might have a lot of adjacent knowledge and expertise, but they aren't able to get the jobs because they don't have that piece of paper. That's starting to really fall away, in part because of the talent shortage. Organizations are facing a reality that they can't say, we only want talent with this certification, and fill many of their critical roles. In fact, that's leading to some organizations considering internal apprenticeships. How can we help someone get the skills they need without this certification necessarily? But it also involves looking at what the U.S. National Bureau of Economic Research calls the skilled through alternative routes talent, STARS. People who are veterans, people without college degrees, maybe with an associate's degree, but not a full 4-year degree? How do you help people who have relevant experience, even if it's not in your industry, get to where they need to go? This is especially relevant when we talk about veterans, actually, because veterans often come into the workforce when they are first joining into civilian life without necessarily knowing the language to translate what they've been doing into corporate resume speak. Some organizations are doing this by actually creating in-house credentials or in-house business schools or universities. And this also really helps with the fact that skill demand is changing so quickly. And it's also a response to the reality that, at least in the United States, undergraduate degree completion rates are going down. So long term, we need a different strategy. That doesn't mean that degrees don't have value. That doesn't mean that they can't be super useful. It's just organizations are finding ways to take advantage of talent and get access to talent that has been skilled in different ways. Generative AI has created a lot of anxiety for folks around whether their roles will be eliminated. And we see a lot of executives feeling pressure to implement generative AI in this way. At the moment, and at least in the short term, unless the technology really changes in how it's applied and what it can do, most organizations are going to be having the most return on implementing for very specific use cases. But the exciting news is those use cases actually create opportunity for folks and might actually help people, in some cases, accelerate in their career. There's some really interesting research done out in Stanford that showed that when customer service representatives were given access to generative AI tools to help them in the responses to customers, it didn't really make a difference for the high performers. They already knew what they wanted to say for almost every inquiry that came in. But it really made a difference for low performers and people who were new to role. It allowed them to get up to speed and perform at a high level faster. And one of the things this offers for us is the potential that maybe you don't even need to have the same level of expertise you used to have. Can you hire someone who has an interest in learning a spreadsheet tool and has the time and willingness to sit and have a training for 1 week on how to use the Copilot or assistant tool that comes with that spreadsheet tool, and another week on organizational principles and what the strategic goal for the project is, and then let them loose, see how they do? There are some opportunities that are here that are very exciting. There's a lot of anxiety and intense attention to DEI over the last year. And some people are even saying, will DEI even exist in 2024? Yes. But we have to face the reality that this attention is for a reason. In fact, 2 in 5 employees report feeling alienated by their organization's DEI strategy. That's a concerning number. And so what we expect to see is a major shift. So embedded DEI is the idea that instead of having DEI as a dedicated team that comes in and says, here are our diversity goals, our equity goals, and our inclusion goals, that we actually need to embed the principles of DEI into everything we do. So instead of needing to have a reminder, your team should be diverse, it's managers saying, hey, do we have enough perspectives on this project and its development to make sure that it does what we need it to do effectively? Have we included a wide enough range of perspectives in our focus groups to make sure that we're actually reflecting the audience that we're trying to sell to? Do we have the diversity in perspectives on our leadership bench that we need to be successful long-term as an organization? It's a shift from siloed DEI to a shared way of working with leveraging DEI principles. Conflict management has been an important skill for managers for a while, but in 2024, we're reaching a crisis point if managers aren't actually good at conflict management. The nature of the way many people live now is that they have very few opportunities to interact with anyone who has different political and social beliefs, except at work. Work is the primary place that people are going to interact with people who feel differently than they do about hot button issues that go straight to people's identity. And then you add in that from a social media perspective, they're getting fed more extreme views because that's the nature of the way any social media they interact with is these days. And we run the risk of people coming to the workplace and not just believing different things, but feeling very, very hostile towards the alternative perspectives. Managers have to lead in the midst of all of this disagreement. Managers have to make a difference here. And at the moment, 57% of managers say that they are the ones who are primarily responsible for resolving employee conflict. Now, imagine you take in the strategy of, we don't talk about politics, not here. And then two people really go at it over a hot button issue that is, for both of them, close to how they see themselves and their identity. All right, you've just told them not to talk about it. Do you think they're going to work well together? What about the people in the room who were affected by that conversation? It's incredibly important in 2024 that we're helping managers to actively manage conflict and come to a place where people can operate with mutual respect and civility, even while strongly and deeply disagreeing with one another, rather than going to a place of, we're just not going to talk about it and hoping that nothing blows up. If you're interested in hearing more about any of the 9 trends, those we've covered today, those we didn't get to, go ahead and download the report that we have available in the summary. Thank you so much for listening. This has been a lot of fun. Have a great day.